Bengaluru is one of India's technology capitals. A global powerhouse of software, startups, and modern wealth. But hundreds of kilometers away, another Karnataka tells a very different story. A Karnataka where agriculture still depends heavily on the mercy of the skies. Where employment often means packing a bag and leaving home for months at a time. Where education outcomes remain a daily uphill battle. And where structural development has struggled to keep pace with the roaring speed of the state's south and west. This is Yadgir. So the question is not whether Yadgir has problems. Every region does. The real question is, why have these problems lasted for so long? To understand Yadgir, you have to look at the map, and the calendar. For decades, Yadgir was treated as a distant administrative outpost of the larger Gulbarga district. It wasn't until December 30, 2009, that Yadgir was officially carved out as Karnataka's 30th district, born out of a long-standing political and regional demand for localized governance. Geographically, it sits in the dry, undulating plains of the Deccan Plateau, bound by the Krishna and Bhima river basins. It has fertile black soil. It has historic forts and deep cultural roots stretching back to the Bahmani and Nizam eras. But geography alone does not explain a development gap. History, administrative neglect, shifting policy priorities, and historical trade routes have all left footprints here. Being granted district status in 2009 gave Yadgir an administrative identity, but administrative boundaries do not automatically build roads, hospitals, or factories. Numbers can feel cold. But behind every percentage point is a human reality. When Yadgir's literacy rate hovers near 51%, with female literacy dropping even lower, it means an entire generation of mothers faces systemic hurdles just to help their children with schoolwork or navigate government documentation. When per capita income lags far behind southern hubs like Bengaluru urban or Dakshina Kannada, it means household savings are razor-thin. One medical emergency or one failed crop season can push a family into chronic debt. These numbers are not destiny. They are symptoms of a structural lag that has persisted across decades. Agriculture is the heartbeat of Yadgir. Over 70% of its people draw their livelihood directly from the soil. Red gram, jowar, cotton, and paddy blanket the landscape, but here lies the core vulnerability, dependence on the sky. Yadgir is framed by major river systems, the Krishna and the Bhima flow right through or along its borders. Canals exist. Lift irrigation projects exist. Yet, net irrigation coverage remains stubbornly low compared to the state average. Why? Because having rivers nearby and having water reach the farm gate are two entirely different engineering and administrative realities. When canal tail-end mismanagement occurs, water simply does not reach the fields that need it most. When groundwater tables drop due to erratic rainfall and over-extraction, borewells go dry. The sequence is brutally simple. Clouds fail to arrive $right soil dries $right crop stress sets in $right loan pressure mounts $right seasonal migration becomes the only way out, without robust cold storage, local food processing units, or direct-to-market value addition. Farmers sell raw produce at baseline prices, missing out on the wealth generated further down the agricultural supply chain. What happens to a district when its youth have to pack their bags just to find a daily wage? Yadgir suffers from a severe structural absence, the lack of localized secondary and tertiary industries. Without manufacturing hubs, IT parks, or mid-scale processing plants, the local economy cannot absorb young graduates or skilled workers. Formal employment opportunities within the district are largely restricted to government services, teaching, and small-scale retail. For young men and women coming out of local colleges, staying back often means facing a blank wall of unemployment or underemployment. And so, seasonal migration becomes an economic institution. Families leave for months to work on construction sites in Bengaluru or sugarcane fields in neighboring states. The human cost is immense: disrupted schooling for children who migrate with their parents, fractured family structures, and a continuous drain of youthful energy away from the district's own soil. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer. In Yadgir, it is the most hard-fought battleground. Documented concerns from state education reports highlight chronic challenges, teacher vacancies in remote rural clusters, high student-to-teacher ratios, and infrastructural gaps that make consistent learning difficult. When foundational learning outcomes in primary schools lag, students struggle when they reach high school, directly impacting SSLC pass percentages and higher education entry rates. Female dropout rates after middle school remain a persistent barrier, driven by economic pressures and distance to higher secondary institutions. But this is not a story of apathy. Walk into any government school in Yadgir, and you will see teachers going beyond the call of duty with limited resources, and students whose eyes shine with ambition. The question is not whether the children want to learn. The question is, what happens to an entire generation when educational infrastructure remains unequal to the rest of the state? Health is the foundation of economic productivity. Data from the National Family Health Survey highlights the historical vulnerabilities Yadgir faced regarding maternal health, child nutrition, and institutional delivery rates. Distance to tertiary healthcare facilities meant that specialized medical care often required traveling hours to Kalaburagi or Hyderabad. Yet, government interventions have shifted the needle. Driven by focused public health campaigns, institutional deliveries have risen significantly across rural pockets. ASHA workers and auxiliary nurse midwives, ANMs, serve as the frontline backbone, tracking infant immunization and nutritional distribution. The district hospital in Yadgir has seen infrastructure upgrades, but specialist doctor shortages in remote rural PHCs continue to test the system. When basic healthcare requires a 50-kilometer journey, health security remains fragile for an ordinary farming household. This is the most critical question in any honest investigation of regional disparity. Has politics failed Yadgir? To answer this fairly, we must look beyond partisan blame and examine structural governance. Resource allocation. Has Yadgir historically received its equitable share of capital infrastructure investment compared to southern and coastal Karnataka? Financial data suggests capital expenditure per capita in northern Karnataka districts has historically lagged behind Bengaluru-centric investments. Political priorities. Have short-term vote bank politics and populist announcements consistently displaced long-term, capital-intensive industrial and irrigation planning? Legislative effectiveness. How effectively have local elected representatives, across successive political parties, leveraged their influence in the state legislature to secure major institutions, universities, and industrial zones? Implementation versus funds. Is the core bottleneck a lack of allocated funds, or is it a systemic failure in last-mile implementation, bureaucratic red tape, and institutional capacity? Political analysts and administrative experts point to a recurring loop: high political noise during election cycles, followed by prolonged bureaucratic inertia between elections. Accountability is frequently diffused between state ministries, central ministries, local panchayats, and district bureaucracies. When everyone is responsible, no one is accountable. Yadgir does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of a larger historical anomaly known as Karnataka, formerly the Hyderabad-Karnataka region. Ruled by the Nizams of Hyderabad until 1948, this region integrated into the Indian Union later than southern Mysore state, leaving it with a distinct historical deficit in infrastructure, educational institutions, and industrialization. Recognizing this deep-seated imbalance, historic political struggle led to the amendment of the Indian Constitution in 2013, inserting Article 371J, which grants special reservation in education and employment for local youth, alongside dedicated developmental funding channeled through the KKRDB. After years of special attention and institutional funding, how much has actually changed? The results are mixed. Article 371J has opened doors for thousands of youth in government jobs and professional colleges. KKRDB funds have built roads, school buildings, and drinking water plants. Yet, structural transformation takes generations. Special status stopped the bleeding, but it has not yet cured the economic anemia. It would be lazy journalism to paint Yadgir as an untouched wasteland. Billions of rupees have flowed into the district through various central and state schemes. Take the Aspirational Districts program launched by Niti Aayog. Yadgir was consistently flagged as one of the most backward districts in the country, which paradoxically became its advantage, triggering intensive monitoring, administrative focus, and competitive governance across health, nutrition, education, and basic infrastructure. Under the Jal Jeevan mission, thousands of rural households that previously walked miles for water have received piped drinking water connections. Under rural employment guarantees, MNREGA, soil conservation and farm pond construction have provided vital local safety nets. Yet, the investigative test lies in the chain: promise to money, money to project, project to implementation, implementation to result. While projects are sanctioned and funds are dispersed, implementation bottlenecks, such as contractor delays, quality control lapses in rural road construction, and delayed maintenance of completed water assets, frequently prevent the intended results from reaching the ground fully. If there is an engine of quiet transformation in Yadgir, it is found in its women. Across villages, women's self-help groups, SHGs, supported by national and state livelihood missions have become financial lifelines. Access to microcredit has allowed women to start small grocery stores, tailoring units, and livestock rearing businesses. When a woman in Yadgir gains financial literacy and credit access, the impact ripples across the entire household. Nutrition improves, children stay in school longer, and household debt traps loosen. Empowering Yadgir's women is not a social welfare checkbox, it is the most potent economic lever the district possesses. Shift the lens from what Yadgir lacks to what Yadgir has, and the story changes dramatically. Fertile land and water, bordered by major rivers, with proper canal management and micro-irrigation, Yadgir can transition from rain-fed vulnerability to multi-crop agricultural abundance. Pulses and food processing, it is a major producer of red gram and pulses. Establishing local dal mills, cold storage facilities, and food processing clusters can keep value and profits within the district. Renewable energy, vast expanses of open, sun-drenched land make Yadgir an ideal frontier for solar and green energy investments. Strategic connectivity, situated close to major regional transit corridors connecting Karnataka and Telangana, Yadgir has logistics potential waiting to be unlocked. Yadgir was never short of land. It was never short of hard-working people. The missing link has always been structural conversion of potential into sustained opportunity. Development is not a one-off project or a ribbon-cutting ceremony. It is an interlocking system. Here is what a practical roadmap for Yadgir demands: reliable irrigation, fixing canal tail-end delivery and expanding drip irrigation to insulate farmers from monsoon failures, foundational education, upgrading government school infrastructure, filling teacher vacancies, and focusing relentlessly on learning outcomes, healthcare access. Ensuring specialist doctors are available locally in rural PHCs rather than forcing emergency travel, local industrialization. Creating incentives for food processing, light manufacturing, and agro-industries to absorb local youth, agricultural value addition, building cold storages, warehouses, and direct market linkages so farmers earn more from the same acre of land, transparent implementation. Enforcing strict social audits and quality control on public works to ensure every rupee reaches the ground. Women's economic participation. Scaling up microenterprise credit and skill hubs for rural women, when education skills jobs income investment form a continuous cycle, a district stops surviving and starts growing. Yadgir was never short of ambition. It was never short of dignity. The question has always been whether its potential can finally be converted into enduring opportunity. Development is not just a road. It is a school that teaches. It is a hospital that heals. It is water that flows when the crop is thirsty. It is a job that allows a young person to build a future right where their roots are. And perhaps the most important realization is this. The question is no longer, why is Yadgir backward? The real question is, what would it take to make Yadgir move forward? Because Yadgir's future should never again be decided by the statistics of its past. Scaling up microenterprise credit and skill hubs for rural women, when education skills, jobs, income, investment form a continuous cycle, a district stops surviving and starts growing. Yadgir was never short of ambition. It was never short of dignity. The question has always been whether its potential can finally be converted into enduring opportunity. Development is not just a road. It is a school that teaches. It is a hospital that heals. It is water that flows when the crop is thirsty. It is a job that allows a young person to build a future right where their roots are. And perhaps the most important realization is this. The question is no longer, why is Yadgir backward? The real question is, what would it take to make Yadgir move forward? Because Yadgir's future should never again be decided by the statistics of its past.